Welcome to it, sports fans. A different ball game. Once again on a Wednesday. Good to be with you. Love it. Different ball game. Cliff Central Sport. A Big Shot Media in the house. What is happening, people? Welcome to it, sports fans. I'm really happy to be with you tonight. I've got a great guest. So we're going to talk about Man United tonight. I know that pains probably anybody in the world who actually loves themselves. But what you're going to do, it's tough times. You even have to acknowledge Manchester United fans. This is no time to be pushing people away. So what we're going to be doing over the next few days, so this week, and it'll spill over into next week, some of the bigger clubs, some of the big 6, big 8 clubs will review the season, see what the fans think. So not just the hoity-toities eating prawn sandwiches, but what do the fans think? The guys that pay 100, 200 pounds for a shirt, right? 40, 50 pounds a week. What do they think? So we'll get the fans' responses on how their teams have performed this season and what they think may develop and happen next season. So really looking forward to having Paulo Diaz, of course, from That 80s Show. If you don't know that, go and check That 80s Show out on cliffcentral.com. Otherwise, on the Cliff Central app, you can, or in fact, it is live. We'll get the details from Paulo. Go and check out That 80s Show. Go and support that show because I absolutely love it. But today, I'm going to do where I was right, where I was wrong. And then we will get to Paulo and we will discuss Manchester United's season and whether it was a success or not. So that's what I'm going to start with. Where I was right, where I was wrong. Tonight, no Woude, of course. Woude back tomorrow. Tonight, just me. And I will tell you where I was right, where I was wrong. So I'll do this every week. Always happy to stay humble as I am. I'm almost too humble. Sickens me how humble I am. But we're going to get into it. Where I was right, where I was wrong. Look, where I was right, Eddie Howe should have gone long ago. I said in January, fire this guy. Right? Get the sentiment out the way, because I tell you what, sentiment cost you 200 million pounds. They've let him go now. He's gone according to his own accord. Of course, it's going to be, mutual. It's not mutual. He got to go. It was eroding. Over the last 3 seasons, his time was up. The Cherries made a huge mistake by keeping him. I just cannot believe he made it past January. And with that squad, he's done a horrendous job, by the way. You look at that front 3. I mean, Josh King's good enough to be in a top 4 team, by the way. Callum Wilson, all right, I'll take him top 8, but still a decent player. I don't think they should have played him. And they could have found a new system. But the holes in midfield, when you knew Fraser wasn't coming back, I don't want that as an excuse. Eddie Howe, I was dead right. Should have gone in January. Terrible news. The Cherries are gone. And listen, it is a dumpster fire. It is a dumpster fire in the championship. That's no place you want to be, because that is a nasty league with lots of quality. With teams, if they played in La Liga, somewhere in Portugal, somewhere in Italy, some of those top 6 teams in the championship are Premier League quality. It is going to be nasty to get back. 200 million pounds. Eddie Howe, I was right. Listen, where I was wrong. Small ball, it's going to work. The Houston Rockets are 2-0 coming back from the break. And if any team needed that 4-month break, what's always been the criticism of James Harden? He fades in the second round or late on in a series. But now he's rejuvenated, he's refreshed, he's even playing some defense. What does that tell you? He's got the energy to not only go get 50 on the other end, but he'll defend 6 turnovers the other day. He doesn't quite do it traditionally, but he'll get his hands in the way. 6 turnovers the other day. He'll jack up them 3s, and they are refreshed. Russell Westbrook looking incredible. Small ball, I was wrong. It can work. Does it need the pandemic to work? I don't know, but it's going to work. And listen, the Lakers are going to get them in the second round. They're going to give the Lakers fits. Are they going to win? I don't know. Probably not, because they don't have the size to keep LeBron out. LeBron's got the IQ, but I was wrong. Small ball can work. Defense, get that out of here. We'll score 135 every night. We don't care. Where I was right, West Indies cricket is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. It's, the problem is that Holder is somebody who you can really wrap your arms around. As a cricketer, he's probably somewhere in the middle. As a leader, I think the whole romance of the story, I think of the bar was so low for the West Indies, is that Holder's come in, and just because he's run of the mill, actually, he's run of the mill. He's what a captain should be. And as a cricketer, he's probably on the bubble where there should be an international cricketer or not. But I was right to say in the last test, I said they'd lose a 3-day test match. I saw that on the first day after they lost 3 wickets, which was a joke. I was dead right. So, listen, the great Simons has an incredible job on his hands. Holder, can he turn it around? Is he young enough to kind of weed out those bad weeds from the past where it's me, Chris Gale, Dwayne Bravo? Is he young enough to maybe hold out and build a new culture? I hope so, because I like his character. I like his composure. It seems everybody's falling in line. But I was right to say mediocrity set in too deep. So I was right on West Indies cricket. Breaks my heart. But the mediocrity has set in too deep. Where I was wrong on Mikel Arteta. I thought it would take him longer to bring across that steel and iron that he had at Man City and as a player. If you knew him as a player, a good playmaker, deep-lying playmaker, but he didn't mind sticking a tackle in. Tough guy, right? Bass Grays, and we know they come out of there tough. Espanyol, of course, he's a product of that tremendous Espanyol academy. They just got relegated, but the academy, fantastic and tough. They breed them tough there. He's tough as nails. He's always been a leader, even under Arsene Wenger. I was wrong about Mikel Arteta. He's come straight across. One thing he's brought is intensity. The other is direction. It's clear what Arsenal are now. If you're not going to be fit, I don't want you in my team. Mikel Arteta. He's not talking about it. He's not loud in the media. You're seeing it. Guendouzi, your attitude sucks. You're out. Right? Simple as that. Granit Xhaka. You were almost Judas. I tell you what. Come on back. Come on back. So he's not listening to anybody. He's not listening to pressure. He's not listening to media. Mikel Arteta says, I'm going to build this team. And if I'm going to get fired, it's on my account. Right? I will live by the sword, die by the sword. High pressure, high intensity, be fit, or get yourself out of here, Guendouzi. I won't have it. Mesut Ozil, you think you're bigger than the team? £350,000 a week. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. You got to love that. And wow, the steal, man. Even David Luiz looks like a footballer under that. FA Cup in the bag. Incredible. Incredible turnaround 6 months. I was dead wrong. Where I was right, Newcastle Football Club. Absolute joke. And I tell you what the problem is. You know, the ownership with Mike Ashley is kind of like this. I always use relationship examples, and I use them from my own life. You ever been in a relationship where you can see in the long term you don't belong together? Whether the girl's better looking than you are and you're better looking than them, that matters, people. If the girl's too good looking and you're not, and and one of you is insecure, even then, date in your league, please. Stop this liberal nonsense of, oh, looks don't matter. Nonsense. You don't work out, she works out, she's going to leave you. Right? This is what this relationship is. Mike Ashley's a Londoner. Everybody knows he doesn't want to be there. Right? He wants to run JD Sport. His dream was really to own a QPR or Crystal Palace type club. I believe he's a Crystal Palace fan. I may be wrong there, but I do know he's a Londoner. It's not going to work up north. If you've been to Newcastle, if you've never been to England, being in Newcastle and being in London is honestly night and day. Completely different people. Up north, they value the working class. In England, of course, they've got the West End. Enough said. That's where all the shopping's done. Harrods. Different culture, different... Since the beginning, it hasn't worked. I don't know why they thought it would, and now the ownership's fallen apart again. This Newcastle situation is going to be a disaster. I feel for Steve Bruce, because for the first time after Keegan, they've now got a genuine Geordie who wants this club, who loves this club. He's a Man United legend, there's no doubting that. Everybody's always known. Steve Bruce, Newcastle United fan. But this is now a joke. And I fully now expect Newcastle to get relegated next season. If you haven't seen the interview with the Newcastle fan in the street about the heartbreak, they couldn't wait to get Ashley out. Right? If you're a girlfriend, boyfriend, you got that terrible boyfriend, terrible girlfriend. After 3 years, you're like, oh my goodness, I don't need this person. My mom was right. And then turns out the hooks are too deep. Who knows? We got to stay together. I don't know. We bought a flat together. He lost his job. And now I'm in the dwang. We got to stay together. It's a nightmare. Newcastle, I was dead right. Dumpster fire, terrible place to be. I am so sorry for the Geordie fans. But next season relegation is real. Where I was wrong. Look, I thought Serie A and La Liga would wake up by now. Right? I thought Serie A and La Liga would realize the Premier League model is the way to go. Make it competitive. Parity is what wins for the league. No, sir. Eventually, they're talking in Serie A about maybe having a playoff for the winners of the league, American style. Ridiculous. Right? Number one, stop with the corruption in Italy. Number two, La Liga, you got to open it up. You can't have Real Madrid and Barcelona making 90% of the television money. I know they've got kind of a new deal, but it's ridiculous, people. Leicester are turning over more money from rights than Real Madrid. Leicester. Are you kidding me? So it's not a problem of the money's not coming in. It's that the rich get richer. It's terrible for the product. Now, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, they'll tell you, right, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Serie A, La Liga haven't realized this yet. It's a joke. And here's what the problem is. We know what's coming down the road. The Champions League is becoming less and less important to the Premier League clubs. To be honest with you, the Premier League clubs could do without the Champions League financially. Because you know what they'll do is they'll invert the finances. They'll make the FA Cup more expensive. They don't need the Champions League. So if Real Madrid and the other Serie A teams and Barcelona aren't careful, this thing's going to get even worse. Nobody watches the competition anymore. Listen, I'm a diehard football fan. I'll watch anything. I'll watch any football. I love Serie A. I'm a big Inter Milan fan. But it doesn't work. It's not about a new team winning. It's about parity. It's about 6 teams being in the game. Of the 6 teams in England next season, you don't know. Arsenal could win the league. I mean, that's a joke, but I'm just saying. Right? Man City could win the league. Chelsea could win the league. Man United, well, they're on the bubble. They could win the league. Next year in Spain, the bets are in. There's only 2 teams. In Italy, there's only 1 team. Come on now. I was wrong on that. I thought they'd wake up. Bundesliga as well. I mean, it's a Munich fest. Where I was right, the IRB is a joke. Folks, the IRB couldn't take control of the situation in South Africa. Why is South African rugby still unclear? Why is there no communication line? The IRB should have come in a little bit earlier. What's happening? Are we going north? Are we staying here? Are we going to go east? Are we going to go west? Are we going to go to America? IRB. Beaumont. Come on. So I was dead right about that. It's an amateur show. Rugby is an amateur game. It's disgusting to me. It's disgusting because it's unfair to the players. The players deserve better. These are men and women that put their bodies on the line weekly for our entertainment. Can the administrators who are earning guaranteed millions, by the way, guaranteed they're not taking a pay cut? What's happening with SA Rugby? What's happening with Australian rugby? We're 4 months into this thing. Don't act surprised now. We're 4 months into the pandemic. IRB, get it together. I was right. They're a joke. Rugby is an amateur game still. I don't care what anybody says. And I don't say that because I'm proud. I'm saying because I hate it. Players deserve more. Fans deserve more. People are investing 20, 30 pounds a weekend for tickets. We're getting paid television. Is this how you pay us back? Come on, man. Come on. IRB, let's get it together. Take some control. Australia's falling apart. South African rugby is falling apart. And who knows what's going to happen up north? You're either in it or you're not. Sell the game to billionaires or fix it yourselves. It's not right. Listen, where I was wrong. I thought no fans at the sport would be a problem. UFC and boxing, quite frankly, are better without fans. The MLB have done an incredible job. I'm not sure if you've seen the MLB, but the fans walk out if your team's losing. All virtual. Incredible package. NBA, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? David Silver, Adam Silver, you have done a ridiculous job. Are you kidding me in that bubble? I was dead wrong. I thought no fans, dumpster fire. Wrong. Unbelievable job all round. Rob Banford, by the way, worst commissioner of all time. MLB, you've done an incredible job. In a dying sport, you've done a great job with no fans. NFL, let's see what you got to give. NHL, can't wait to see what they've got. But the NBA, MLB, right, Bundesliga, Premier League, big up. Absolutely great job. I was wrong about that. Hey, no fans, no problem. Look, I was right in this sense. Let me tell you lastly where I was right. The SEC are going, hey, we don't need you. We don't care about you, the rest of the college football program. But where I was right is that aggressive always wins. Which sports have come out of this as winners? UFC, WWE, the Pac-12, right? The SEC, Alabama, for those that don't know, Texas, they run football. Everybody's panicking like, oh, what are we going to do? They go, hey, get out of here. We're the most valuable part of college football anyway. You get out of here. We'll do our own thing. We'll play in conference. That's great. Aggressive always wins. And I hear the argument is that these are human beings. And some of the players saying, we're human beings. Don't make that argument now. You are exceptional. We must treat our college athletes exceptionally. And the SEC recognizes this is just because kids can't go to school, let's keep this thing going. It's worth about $250 million per college. $3 or $4 billion industry. We're going to keep this thing going. We're not Harvard because we know the Ivy League schools have said sport is canceled. But they don't really care because they're producing brain surgeons. Alabama, I'll tell you what they're producing. First round picks, running backs. That's what they're producing. Aggressive always wins. I love what the SEC has done is we don't care about Fauci. We don't care about any of this. We're going to create our own bubble. We're worth $4 billion on our own. NCAA, get out the way for the first time. We don't need you. We're aggressive. We're going to win. Like the UFC, like Dana White. We're going to have our own little fight island here. Love it. Aggressive always wins, people. Aggressive always wins. Don't treat the students the same as the athletes because the athletes are on a course to change their families' lives forevermore. $5, $10, $15, $20 million next year guaranteed for maybe 40 or 50 of these young men. For me, go ahead. Aggressive always wins. And lastly, where I was wrong. FIFA, awful. Infantino, awful. I was wrong. I thought maybe Blatter, Platini. All right, we've really gotten to the roots. I was wrong. I love football. I was wrong. Platini, Blatter, cancers. And we know sometimes you don't always get cancer on the first round of chemo. We clearly have not done that with FIFA. They're a cancerous organization. It's not controversial to say that. I was wrong. I thought Infantino, new wave. We've seen what's coming out. And I'm afraid with something this large scale, if you haven't read the investigation, nobody's going to make these empty accusations. This is a problem. It is a problem. FIFA, I don't know where we go from here. I was wrong. Not clean. Not clean. Platini, Blatter gone. Same problems in-house. Absolutely terrible. That's it for I was right, where I was wrong. Folks, as I said, we're going to be rolling out season reviews, right? This season. Or over the next couple of weeks. But instead of getting players and people from the prawn sandwich brigade, as they call them, we're going to get fans. The people who care. People who fly across the world to go and watch their team. People that'll pay 200, 300 pounds. Some football shirts now cost 3,000 rand. By the way, the new Man City kit. The best. The absolute best. If you haven't seen it, it's their third kit, the black one. Go on YouTube or Google that. Sick. Sick drip, as the kids are saying. Sick. Anyway, we're going to be rolling out fans. Season review coming up. We're going to start with Man United. Coming up after this, my good man, Paulo Diaz. All right, we're going to get into it. Man, it feels so good and bad to say the season's over, but the shortened break, the pandemic, means instead of waiting 10 weeks, 9 weeks, we only have 5 weeks left, right? It was 6 weeks when the football ended, but we've got about 5 weeks left, and there's still Champions League, by the way. So we're going to have like 3 weeks. It's awesome. It is absolutely awesome. Speaking of that, listen, we're gonna get to our first guest in terms of fan reviews. Let me introduce this guy. Great guy, great host of that 80s show. Let me bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing a guy who is definitely a Portuguese guy. Host of that 80s show, Manchester United fan, and he says he has not gone bold. It is his look. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the finest in the business, my guy, Paulo Diaz.
Can I hire you to do that every time I get home? Just help me with my confidence.
Let's go, Paulo. Let's see what we can do. We can talk offline. How are you, Paulo?
Yeah, I'm very good, man. Listen, this is awesome, and you forgot to mention the Europa League as well. There's also to look forward the Europa League for those of us interested in such things.
Well, as a Champions League club, in fact, I don't even get television service on Thursday nights.
Go away.
Paulo, welcome to it, man. Thank you for doing this, by the way. So before we start, let's talk about that 80s show, because I feel like that is a show that doesn't get enough attention, that I love. So talk us through the 80s show. What is it? Where can we listen to it? How often? How? With who?
It is my guiltiest of guilty pleasures. That 80 show is on Cliff Central Live every Friday at 11 o'clock. I am joined by a very capable co-host, Dory, who keeps me in line. And we just play 80s music and talk about movies that no one's ever seen and reminisce about candy bars that you can no longer get. And it's a little bit of a shot of nostalgia for everybody once a week. And the show's repeated every Wednesday. So if you remember tomorrow, I think at 9 o'clock, you can catch the repeat of the show.
There we go. I absolutely love it. It is good fun. Paulo is hilarious, by the way, along with Dory. Very, very funny. All right, Paulo, listen, we've had the fun now. Let's get into the juice of it all. For all of your sins, you are a Manchester United fan. For all of your sins.
They never told me to be like this, because I started supporting United, only known success, and in these dark periods, I'm not quite sure about it. It's like this wasn't part of the deal, right?
So it's almost like you were on one long honeymoon. In marriage, I don't know how many people tell you about if a wife is pregnant, like that she'll take water in her feet and it'll be a nightmare, and you'll have to be actually support her, not just tell people on Instagram you're supporting her. Nobody tells you about that part of marriage, so it's kind of like that, I'd imagine.
Exactly. Nobody tells you what happens after a couple of kids and dogs and things like that. So this is where I am with United at the time being. There's more love for the dogs than there is for me.
Absolutely love it. Listen, Paulo, this season's been one, I'd say, to use probably a religious term, is that you have to view it in BC and AC. Before COVID, after COVID terms. I think for United is probably the best way to split it. But I'd love to hear from you. You spent 200 mil this year, and nobody's denying that. And you finished what I call tie third, but we'll just call it third for now. What do you think of this season, having spent this much money as a United fan? So let's take Ollie out of it for now. Just purely as a United fan, having lived the last seven years being what they are. How does third land for you, having spent 200 mil this season?
And to continue your religious analogy, it's almost like BB and AB. So before Bruno and after Bruno. And I think that's where our season got split, even more so. I think to frame your question, it goes, so how do you consider your season? Do you consider it a success? Yes. Do you consider it a success after spending 200 million? Well, no, because you can't spend that sort of money and, scramble over the line to third, get humbled in the FA Cup semi-final and hope for the best in the Europa League. So, in that context, no, probably not a great season after spending that money. But in terms of progress, the progress is there. What is progress worth? I don't know. Is it worth 200 million? But that's where you are. You got to say, would the objectives have been, if you had said at the beginning of the season, you'll be back in the Champions League, you'll be pretty much in the quarters of the Europa, semis of the FA Cup, bring through youth, play good football, then yeah, it's been a success. Spending that sort of money to get that, and scramble with Leicester on the last day, no, then it's not been a success.
And fair enough. I think that's That's a realistic way to look at it. I think a lot of people still think, still think Fergie's around and are slating Ollie. So let's see where they go from here. But speaking of Ollie, third, okay, it's been a roller coaster ride. Does third mean now Ollie's entrenched for? Do you give him another 2 seasons? What does it look like for you with what you've seen now with Ollie? Because it's not the first time he's had a turnaround. Remember, I think you had those 22 games unbeaten at the beginning, and then we saw where that went. What does coming third for Ollie mean? It's almost another revolution. And as I loved you saying was after Bruno, what does it mean for Ollie? Is he secured now definitely for next season? What are we putting on Ollie's plate right now in terms of expectation?
So I think expectation on United managers is always different. So a lot of the things you're saying about Arteta, about it's his rules, get out, I'm not going to put up with this. Solskjaer's done the same thing, but, it's measured differently. And I also think he's done very similar to what Lampard's doing in terms of culture and I'm a legend, I know what the club's about and youth. And listen, everyone works with different restrictions. I mean, you can't plead poverty when you got 200 million compared to Chelsea, you can't spend money. I think what happens with Ole is he's got an eye for a good player. He knows how to get everyone to play football. His signings, and I think we'll come to that, who he signs is going to put pressure on him, because if all of a sudden you're spending 100 million on one player and that guy doesn't hit the ground running, there's only one guy who's going to fall for that, and Van Gaal had a vanity signing in Di Maria, got him sacked. Mourinho had his vanity signing in Sanchez, got him sacked. And we just don't hope the trend doesn't stay the same. I think it would be wrong to sack him now, but, football's an ugly game.
It is an ugly game. So from your side as a fan, let's have a hypothetical. Ollie, next season, semi-final, again, FA Cup, last 16, let's be realistic. Champions League gets knocked out by Bayern Munich in the last 16 of the Champions League, and Ollie comes 5th. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's the league's do or die, and I think in the league, the other scenarios, the other tournaments, that's cool. I think you'd be very happy with that. We cannot let top 2 finish with 33 points, 15 points or so ahead of us. We just can't play that. So I think that's where the work's got to come and cut down that lead or that gap to at least single digits. So that scenario you said, no, I doubt he'll even get to that point if that does play out.
Wow. So, are you saying if Ollie is, let's say, 6th, 7th, and 15 off the pace by December, are we talking pre-January sacking possibly?
After spending 100 million on one player, yes, and I think as long as the ghost of Pochettino's floating around, whether there's any truth, whether he's interested or not, it's going to put pressure on him. So unless Sancho comes in and he's flying straight away and you've, blown your wad on him, there's a lot of pressure and it needs to work immediately.
Wow. Hey, Paulo, you were speaking of the league. Dave, won't you give us the top 4 from this season? Because I think Paulo's making some great points about what's happened and how it's going to have to, improve from United side. I think there's some real things that people have to face. So let's have a look at that, right? And folks, this is Manchester United. There are people alive right now who have seen the success. So it's not like Liverpool fans, right? It's a lot of the Liverpool fans that saw 30 years ago, with all due respect, are elder citizens now, elder statesmen and women, or they've tragically passed on from planet Earth, because this is real. Is Man United fans saw now teams not that long ago with people that are still alive. Ryan Giggs just retired. They were winning titles essentially by November, December. With those United teams, the league was over. Maybe not mathematically, but by January, we're done with this thing. We're focusing on the Champions League and the FA Cup. So, Paulo, you made an interesting point, and I'm having a look here. Everybody's tending to point to your defense. That's been incredible. So, third best defense in the league, the best defense in Europe this post-lockdown, since January, in fact. And you look at that number and you say to yourself, is there hope going forward, or is it just an anomaly? What would you say? I just wanted to start with the positive of your defense, and I'm looking at those numbers: 36 goals conceded, the league table after 38, Paulo, as you know, that's not a highlights package. That tells you what you are. And that suggests you're a rather solid defense. So what do you think of building off that? And is there hope to improve the goals for next season and maybe push yourselves closer? Because, I mean, 33 points is, wow, that's a long way to go.
Yeah, and those same Liverpool supporters also I think they're going, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years without a trophy. I think United can very quickly fall into that. I remember Liverpool's last title, and it goes very quickly, 30 years. So, our defense is strong. I mean, Maguire didn't finish the season well. I'd like to put a lot of that down to playing a game like every 25 minutes. It's like that schedule was ridiculous. I mean, so you've sort of got to go, he's a lot of money. His biggest sin is not being Virgil van Dijk, and not everyone is. And so that defense is solid, and it's a solid back four. People don't like everybody, but if you have to look at what they are, plus De Gea, it's a solid back five there that you can work with. Everyone makes mistakes. United mistakes are highlighted. Keeper mistakes are highlighted. So there is a lot to work with. And I think United are all in that situation where I think back five, there's a lot to work with. Front three, there's a lot to work with, and possibly more. But it's that middle third that I think, okay, Bruno's in there, but we still don't quite have the click right in the middle yet. So there's a lot to work with. I think it's going to come, I'm sure like you see with Chelsea, there's going to be a sacrifice, because if Chelsea tighten in the back, what are they sacrificing up front? Lampard signings, I don't think he seems to care. He's going to try to blow teams away. But, some sacrifice has to come at some point. But we've got a solid defense. I mean, there's a lot to work with there.
So, I mean, I wanted to touch on it a bit later, but I think this is a good segue to it. It's been good this season, but you've seen another tragedy, and it's another problem. Is Eric Bailly's probably got a major injury now, and we take the brain stuff seriously. That's another big one. And I've heard some rumblings about Lindelof as an option. So I'd love to hear your thought just on strictly in that centre back position, because Maguire is clearly the guy. He's the skipper now, I believe. What do you think of Bailly? Can you rely on him? And is Lindelof, if not Bailly, the solution?
I think it was about 2 years ago now. I was at Old Trafford. I watched United against Leicester, and Bailly started the game. And you saw, when you see a game live, you see different things, and you just see why he's so highly rated. Quick, strong, good on the ball, brave, everything that needs to be, but not consistent. And also, but injury and accident prone. And I think that blows things out the water. And I think if you had to add luck to his game, you got a hell of a centre back there. But unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to go that way. He is young enough to recover, but there's a hell of a defender there. But he's just never going to get a run of 10, 12 games that you can rely on him. Lindelof, likewise, there is a good defender there. Is he, going to take us back to the top? Is he a guy that's anywhere near? I mean, you got to take Van Dijk out of it. No one compares to him. But is he a guy that compares to Gomez? Laporte? Is he in that category? No, he's not, and nowhere near in that category. So that's sort of like somewhere where we need to work together. But listen, centre backs, sometimes you don't have to be the best. You just have to be the best to your other. And, sure. That's what you got to work on. That comes on the training ground.
That's such a great point. I have to be honest. And Man United fans think I hate Man United for saying this all the time. I've never thought Rio Ferdinand was world class. But to the great point you've just made, was when you've got Nemanja Vidic next to you, and then you put a racehorse like Rio Ferdinand next to him. I mean, that's just the perfect yin and yang, is Rio the communicator, that guy who's sort of organizing things with his mouth. And then you got Vidic, who's doing all the dirty work, plus being the best player in the Premier League for like 4 or 5 years, really. And Vidic was the best player, not just centre back. It kills me to say this. Nemanja Vidic, I believe, for 4 years in a row, was the best player in the Premier League. And then you've got, so what you're saying, that combination, kind of look for something like that with Maguire.
Yeah. And Vidic was the best player, except when he played Torres twice a season.
No, that's, like you said, everyone makes mistakes. And El Nino, before coming to Chelsea, was a different story. I don't want to talk about his time at Chelsea, although he did win a Champions League, just want to say. Just want to throw
Slip it in there. Slip it in there.
Yeah. Yeah, Paulo, I think you really are opening up an interesting conversation. I'm looking at what they're doing to protect that back four, and I think the back four, back five. So are we now saying Matic was sold, Fred was sold, or is that a department you can improve? Or are you happy to say, okay, if we protect the back four with those, this number of conceding only 36 is real. Are we happy with that? Or can we upgrade in that defensive midfield position? And if so, how?
Well, it's evident that the money will go elsewhere. I don't like throwing names off tongues because it just becomes like fancy football manager type thing. Part of me worries Matic cannot be first choice for 38 games next season. It's just not going to happen. McTominay's there, but why did Solskjaer, when he really needed the crunch, rely on an over 30 player rather than go to McTominay? So you got to wonder. Solskjaer has shown that if he doesn't trust somebody, you're done, and he'll run the guys he trusts into the ground rather than change that. So you've got to wonder what happens with Matic there. But I think that's important. It's whoever's sitting in front of those four shielding Matic. If we had him in his Chelsea pomp, geez, no problem. But there's a lot of mileage in there that's not going to last a full season with a higher caliber of Champions League thrown in as well.
Mm. And Fred, what do we do there? That was £50 million invested. What is he actually? Is he box to box? I mean, I don't know if he knows Fred himself.
It's so weird. You saw Fred playing for Shakhtar and you look like a bit of a Willian. And you're going, okay, well, now it's just completely different player. Like, had to be reinvented. So, listen, Fred came well. He seemed to have settled. And again, he was out of the team. So like a lot of that good work went. And I don't know if Solskjaer treated like those last 10, 12 games as just like, this is a mini tournament. These are my guys. This is my squad. And this one I'm going to push. I like Fred. He's dynamic. He wants the ball. He wants to move it forward. When he's confident, he's flying. I don't really know what he is. He's definitely not box to box. He seems to pick up the ball off the defenders, seems to want to be the little bit of a man to play a 1-2 with. But he's not the future. He's not gonna take us to Liverpool or City levels.
It's true. You're gonna have to upgrade there if you want to make up 30 points. You're gonna have to have someone who transitions it a little bit quicker. I think is what I'm picking you up saying. Because Matic, okay, you can't play 50 games in a season anymore.
No, and if you throw names around, Ruben Neves is just somebody who's going to come in there and do that job. And so much of me goes when people say, oh, which United players you want? I start wondering if I shouldn't just support Wolves, because I think every Wolves player would improve. I'd like to take the whole Wolves team, lock, stock, and barrel. Bali and all the Portuguese players, Jimenez, I'll take everyone. But that's the sort of players, a Ruben Neves comes in. But I mean, that's, you're never going to touch Ruben Neves.
Oh, so it's Ruben Neves, huh? By the way, guys, for those who don't know, international viewers, there's no one more Portuguese than South African Portuguese people. So if you went to Paulo, I would have said Ruben Neves. So is that the Spanish pronunciation?
Oh, it's neither here nor there. I've got to tell you, I listened to this one Portuguese soccer podcast, but it's by Canadian Portuguese. And they overpronounce the word so badly, it actually puts off my listening of it. It's like a Bruno Fernandes, but they're speaking full English, and then suddenly it's Bruno Fernandes. I'm like, what the? Shut up, So I must be careful I'm not guilty of it.
Okay, so but is that the correct pronunciation? Because that's also good to know. So it's Neves.
Yeah. Well, it'd be Ruben Neves if that's how you want to do it. Yeah.
Oh, jeez, we just went full on Lazito land there. Ruben Neves.
I'll come punch you later in the car park.
Listen, when I hang out with Miguel and the boys next time, I say, oh, what do you guys think of a Ruben Neves? Love it. Okay, this is an educational show. People helping people, Paulo. It's a wonderful story.
Whatever I can do.
Let's for a second just move off the pitch, because I think something that's been bubbling under for a long time is, and we saw Gary Neville has taken it to the point of starting his own football club, is the Glazers, right? The Glazers. What do you think of the Glazers personally? And what has been the problem with United fans and the Glazers? Like, what should they be doing more to get people on side?
It's, I don't know. Listen, I mean, there's the whole financial side of it of going, okay, sure, they're taking out more money than they're putting in, and they've over-leveraged the club and all the rest of it. But you cannot ask more of owners that every time you need to break a transfer fee, they break it. You know what I mean? They've never skimped. They've never said don't negotiate. They let Glazer pay over the odds for every player. I don't really know what more they can do in terms of supporting managers and and Glazer and let the football side do their job. The whole financial side, I mean, it seems a mess. I'm not smart enough to talk about that sort of stuff. But if you look at it, you go, okay, what do you need from owners? Do they support the manager? 100% they do. I mean, they let them buy Sanchez or pay all that money for Sanchez, for God's sake. Do they support Glazer? Yes, because he pays over the odds consistently for players. I mean, the rumor is that they're trying to negotiate with Dortmund and they're happy to pay the extra, whatever Dortmund say. So, I mean, from that point of view, I don't know. Maybe it's from a British point of view because they're American. There's a lot of that sentiment I read. But listen, they support the manager. They put the money where it needs to be put. You can't ask more than that.
I don't get it either, because the previous ownership leveraged Man United, not to the hilt like the Glazers have, but I don't understand what the problem is. Is like, it's okay to admit after Fergie left, it was so, you know, it's like any trauma in any relationship. We all have mates who've broken up with a girlfriend that was great to them for 5-10 years. It's time to get married now. She goes, okay, actually, you're not the guy. The guy falls apart for maybe, a year and a half, right? And then he gets back on track. I think United are in that. It's traumatic to lose, I believe, the greatest football administrator of all time in David Gill. I genuinely believe that. I just, you know, the way he ran it for 10 years was, you never ever heard United signings. What the hell's Eric Cantona and these guys doing here now? I mean, Cantona would be before, but next thing, Nemanja Vidic is here in January. Patrice Evra is here in January. You didn't hear a thing, right? United, they go and win trebles. Let's add to that. Like, it's incredible. You add world class every year. You'd never hear a peep. And what I loved about under David Gill, something that I've noticed since he left, was that more stuff comes out in the paper now about Man United than ever. That couldn't have just been Fergie by himself, I don't believe. And for me, I always say, loud dressing room, problem. If I get to hear a lot of the dressing room stuff, it never works out on the field. And if you think about it, Jurgen Klopp, for as loud as he is, you don't really hear much about, and there must be rumblings, because it's a high, heavy metal environment in that Liverpool dressing room. Winning's not an easy thing. You never hear anything really about Liverpool stuff. I bet stuff's going to come out. You never really hear anything about City out the dressing room, right? You never, and you can be sure with Pep, there's problems. I mean, you've seen, I don't know if you've seen the documentary, but I'd love to hear what you think about that whole transition from Fergie and accepting it. I just think that you're still in quite a traumatic phase. Maybe I'm nuts.
I think we need to be far away, removed enough. You know, Ferguson's gone. I think there are actually more supporters of other clubs that bring out Ferguson more than United supporters do, in my experience. I mean, it's gone. We got to move on. The game's different. Could Gill and Ferguson run clubs in 2020 the way they were doing it even in 2010? I don't know. You know, there was no social media. Players weren't as empowered as they were. Agents weren't as cocky as they were. You know, there wasn't clickbait type articles. You know, you put United in a headline, it gets more clicks. So I think there's a lot of that. You know, I mean, Ferguson's gone. You know, he's gone, and he's not. You know, that's it. We just have to move on from it. And he was a big loss, but I think harking back to him, next thing you know, we haven't won the league in 30 years. So.
Well, you're well on your way. 8 years later, Paulo, Ed Woodward is, I think I always look at the boardroom as a whole. I like to split it between the ownership and the chairman or the CEO, whatever you may call it. Football director in some places has taken on this role. Is Woodward valuing sort of economic value? Because we know what he's done for United off the pitch. You'd think a club like this would shrink considering our performance has gone down. But if anything, your economic value has gone through the roof. It looks exponential with Woodward at the helm. Of course, another guy like Gill coming from an accounting background. Your thoughts on Woodward and that balance between winning off the pitch and winning on the pitch? Do you think he's the guy?
Look, he's just doing his job, and he's obviously doing a good enough job to stay around and keep getting increases and never be under pressure. I gotta tell you what I love about him. He's so clever. He's like a Teflon Don, that guy. And that every time United start dipping on the field, so, you know, in this like COVID quarantine cup thing we're doing now, is that United were going unbeaten. Everything was great. We're the best ever. We're going to challenge Liverpool. Suddenly we start dipping off, struggling through games. Director of football role is being discussed. It's like his go-to PR trick, you know. Listen, his job is to make money for the club, and he does it. You know, I mean, his job isn't to play successful football. So, you know, you got to separate it out. those choices are managers at the time. You look at them, were they bad choices? No. In hindsight, of course, they weren't the best. But you don't know until you try.
And you don't think he could have hung on maybe with Mourinho a little longer? Your fellow compatriot from Iberia?
Can I tell you the craziest thing? I'm going to totally discredit any good points I made. I honestly don't feel that if we had stuck with Moyes and given him the same money, would we be in any different position than we would have been? I honestly don't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah. Look at what we've done. Do you really think Moyes with money we would be any worse off? I honestly don't believe so.
Wow. Now, there's a whole thing that I was not ready for you to. I'd love to know what people think about that statement. Moyes with money, you give him 2 years, he builds his own culture. Because, Paulo, you're making such a great point. Because when he came in, he really had Fergie's dressing room to deal with. I mean, you've heard all the stories come out. Ferdinand, strong personality. A fading Ferdinand. Quite frankly, a finished Ferdinand.
Yep.
Evra. These are strong guys that he had to try and wrestle that dressing room. And you know, in life, you never want to be the guy after the guy, right? You want to be the guy after the guy after the guy in everything. You don't want to be the guy after
Solskjaer. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to be you don't want to be the guy after Fergie. So, wow, what do people think? Paulo, we'll take some questions at the end. I'd love to hear what people think. Paulo's just raised a great question. Moyes with money. So let's call it 2 years. We're living in a hypothetical world. Would Moyes have been better? I'd love to hear. I'd love to see what our listeners and viewers think. Great question, Paulo. Wow. Hey. Listen, for a United fan, you're sharper than I expected. There we go. I've said it. It's been on my heart.
and that Moyes thing sounds crazy because, I mean, he barely escaped relegation. His career's been a mess. But I think his confidence has been completely knocked. So obviously it's not the same Moyes that left. I really don't believe. Back him, give him Pogba, give him Lukaku, give him that same support. I don't think you're worse off than third 8 years later.
And I'm not going to disagree with the confidence thing. Mike Tyson famously lost to Buster Douglas at the top of his game. Was never the same. Shot fighter after one. Mike Tyson didn't change physically. Lost Castamarco. If you don't know who Castamarco is, go and check him out. Arguably the greatest trainer of all time. If you're into boxing, Teddy Atlas is keeping that sort of training stable alive. But after he lost to Buster Douglas, never the same. So confidence is everything, people. Paulo, you're on something there. Talking of confidence, everything's about confidence on the pitch, and you need your playmakers to be the most confident people on the pitch, right? They got to be willing to try the crazy every time, and they don't care if they make a mistake. Bruno Fernandes, as you were saying it earlier, I probably made a mess of it. Bruno Fernandes is going to have to split time on the ball, and he's clearly a guy who wants it at his feet. Some playmakers, you think of Kaká. He didn't mind playmaking off the ball. So, guys, I'm going to get in place. Give it to me. I'm going to take 2 touches. And if you're in place, don't worry, I'll find you. I'm going to curl it in the top corner. But Bruno seems to be the guy is give me the ball, and I want to touch it as many times, and I'll make the decision. I believe you have an issue because Pogba's that guy as well. Pogba wants the ball at his feet. He doesn't want to do the stuff off the ball and work. Can it work with 2 big egos? Because they both clearly, you've seen Bruno shouting at people. He's I'm the guy. Pogba is I'm the guy. Can it work with both of them trying to be the fulcrum of the team? And they're both going to start. Can it work long term?
You sort of saw, and much smarter people than me were saying that Pogba suddenly had somebody who was on his level and could take the pressure off him. And so, okay, so I don't have to do everything all of a sudden because he wants to do it. And Pogba then almost took that role of let Bruno have the ball constantly, and Pogba will do that off the ball, 1, 2 touch, 3 touch, and work it that way. Exactly. The question comes is, everyone's happy when it works. Dressing rooms are quiet when it works. Success is soundproofing. But you suddenly drop a few games, doesn't go so well, run a form, Pogba starts getting criticized again, and then we start seeing how well that works. Bruno, everyone's going to figure out how to play him next year, and that's going to be the biggest test of his career. You can come in, play half the season, this truncated, weird little half year we've had, and it's easy to look good, but people are going to figure out how to play you. And what happens then? Will you get the time on the ball? Will you be allowed to drift around like you do? And all of a sudden, a few bad results, those passes, Bruno's not perfect with passing. He's not scared to hit a ball and lose a ball. But when it stops coming off, what happens then? And how loud does Pogba start getting?
So ultimately, does it work out for you? Because here's the truth: Paul Pogba, 4 seasons, hasn't played a full season, right? If I come to you now, let's say, Dream World, you're the head of recruitment. Woodward will take your word for it. What do? Do you take the risk that, okay, both absolutely prodigious talent? Do you take the risk of keep both egos in-house, hoping that Maguire's got the personality to run that dressing room, and maybe you recruit another leader in the off? Or do you push Pogba out? Which way would you go? Which way would you lean? Because it looks like they're trying to build long term.
Look, Pogba's not. No, he's not going anywhere. I mean, at least till next summer. If he's just not going anywhere at the moment, so it has to work. You and I both played football. You can't have too many good players on the field, and good players figure it out. They just work out who goes what, and when one's down, the other one picks up. And likewise, I can't believe you have enough strong personalities in a dressing room. Look at Liverpool. Look at, how many strong guys are there. Chelsea got a hell of a lot of strong guys, and they're World Cup winners. You can't have too many of them. So I really don't think that sort of thing should be a problem. Good players figure it out. I think, getting rid of Pogba now probably does more harm than good, because it creates a new problem that probably doesn't need to be solved right now.
All right. I love that. And also looking forward to hearing what people think on that Pogba matter. So now, you're now Ollie. Who's your playmaker? Because you and I have played football. You can't have 2 playmakers. It doesn't work. Who's the guy? Because something like that needs to be pre-decided. Like you said, is because you don't want that thing on the fly. When it doesn't work, that's when you have problems. It needs to be decided, is the ball goes through Bruno. Because Pogba, we know the personality. And personally, I love Pogba's personality, but I wouldn't have him on my team, because it's production versus what I have to tolerate is too much for me. But okay, people will argue whatever they want to argue for. For you, what do you do? Because you know how it works. You can only have one Eric Cantona. You hand the team to him, right? You hand the team to Cantona. You have to, I believe, if you want to be top, Barcelona, who does it belong to? Leo Messi. We know that. There's no, even under Xavi and Iniesta, it was clear. It's this guy's team. You look at basketball, it's LeBron's team. It's Harden's team. You can't have two bulls in a kraal. So for you, you're Ollie. What do you do in terms of you're the guy when it comes down to it? And I saw a little bit earlier in the season, Rashford's taking the penalty. Pogba wants to take it. As Ollie, he's stamping that authority. What do you do? Who's your playmaker? Bruno or Pogba for you? Who do you want the team running through?
I think you sort of like answered the question there with who takes the penalties, with it being such a problem at the beginning of the year. The type of football that Solskjaer likes, and myself, the type of number 10 I like, playmaker, Rui Costa, Deco, those sorts of guys. Kaká is Bruno Fernandes has to be your playmaker. Pogba is at more number 6, long balls, picks the ball up off the defense, looks to get things moving. Where Bruno's the guy, he'll hit the pass, he'll knock it through, he'll take it on, he'll play a 1-2. I think he just does a lot more up the pitch. Like I say, I'm a fan of Rui Costa, so that's the sort of football I like. I think that works better for our forwards. Not too many touches on the ball, first time, knock it on. Pogba slows it down, and for the guys we have up front, you can't do that. So for me, it's Bruno's team. He's not the star. He doesn't have an emoji, but it's Bruno's team for me.
Doesn't have an emoji. Love that. By the way, educational. Rui Costa. Just want to tell you, I had a Fiorentina when he was doing his thing there. Him and Bati goal. I had a Rui Costa shirt. I had
Amazing.
an insane Russian girlfriend who burnt some of my shirts after we had a disagreement, and that was one of them that went. That was one of them, and I had a Bati goal one, by the way, Batistuta. So Rui Costa, one of my favorite players of all time.
Was it the Fiorentina shirt with Nintendo on the front?
Yes, the classic. The classic.
Oh my God!
When he was hitting the ball through Mark Bosnich, Batistuta, that combo. I had both of their shirts. Hey, Russian girl, she was insanely hot, out of my league. Told you earlier, is don't date out your league. That's what was happening there. She was wild.
You've got me more excited about Rui Costa and Batigol. Those two were I don't think there's ever been a combo. We can do probably a whole show about the two of them. There's never been a combo like those two. Another topic.
Are you kidding me? Rui Costa, he played in silk slippers, right? He was
And
the
and smoking
Baggio. He was a mix of Baggio and Kaká.
and smoking a cigar the whole time. He was so classy and unreal. And he just lived to give goals. That's it. He didn't want to score. He just wanted to give. That combo. Oh, don't even get me started. It's too late at night.
Right.
I won't sleep.
Yeah, listen, sorry, I shouldn't have injected that caffeine into your system. But Gabriel Batistuta, remember that goal that he scored against Mark Bosnich against United? He's hit it through the keeper. That's not around the keeper. He's beaten him. He's hit it through his soul. Unbelievable. Gabriel Batistuta, one of the greats. Bati goal, famous Argentine number 9. Oh, now you see, now I've completely lost track. And Paul, I think you made some great points. But now we got to talk about some real stuff. It's been 8 seasons now, and yes, we want to get over Fergie. Yes, we want to do all of that. Man United, I believe, have a serious problem, because I know what the big rivalry is. It's the Liverpool one, and my God, this must be painful for all United fans. But there's somebody else knocking on the door. Is Man City or for real? And I think people kind of thought this would be one of those situations where that Abu Dhabi money hangs around maybe 10 years and gets out of here. But this thing's for real. They've just reinvested in the training complex another £100 million, I read last week. This thing's for real. Are they noisy neighbors, or are they now actually living next door and they're sleeping and they're having a 24-hour party? How real is the rivalry with Manchester City now for you as a United fan?
And they want to buy a portion of exactly. And they want to buy a portion of our property to extend their swimming pool and for their dogs to play and things like that. So it's getting quite rude of them.
Yeah. In fact, if you don't mind letting your wife sleep over at our place twice a week, is essentially where we're getting with City now.
Exactly, bring all swinging into the vibe. What's going to be interesting to watch on City is that Pep has never been there for a rebuild at any club. So Barcelona, he had that first La Masia crop that was amazing, but before the rebuild, he left. Likewise, Bayern. And it looks like he'll stay at City for his first rebuild, because the likes of David Silva are leaving, and there is a new team. Aguero can't be there for much longer. So it'll be interesting to see what he does on a rebuild. And I think, listen, he's always going to be a great coach, but how long will that take? And will they do it as well as they've done so far?
A great point, right? And I think I was speaking to somebody who used to play for Man City. I think from what I've heard from him, and he's now working at the academy there, is that they talking about Patrick Vieira being lined up as the next guy. So apparently they've already spoken to. Now, don't quote me on that, but that's what's next. We know he went and worked at New York at the
and that's their model,
FC New York. Yeah, and now where's he, in France at the moment? So they're talking about, okay, Pep's going to do this thing. We're going to run it back once more. But you're dead right. He's never rebuilt. And that's a different story, right? Is rebuilding a dynasty is not plug and play. And I'm not sure if they're going to go another 500 mil like they've gone with this dynasty of his.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, a lot of the pieces they need are already there, so it's not like going to be dramatic that they're going to lose 8 players at once. I think majority's there. But, David Silva and Aguero are the sort of last little pieces of that success, and Fernandinho as well, and they need to move on. And, do you replace it like with like? Is somebody internally ready to step up? Sterling, these Real Madrid rumors never go away. And those are big players that, may need to be replaced, and how does he do that?
And how are you feeling about Man City? Are they a real rival now? Because I mean, these guys are, my God, it's been scary, the football they've played over the last four seasons. As a United fan, are you feeling it, or are you still just focused on the Northwest derby with Liverpool?
Oh no, and Liverpool, City, they're one of those, they're that team that if you beat them, God help the next team, because they get angry and they just smash the next team, so they just do that. Listen, we United are, I mean, it's almost like, in a way, City and Liverpool are sort of so out of our league. It's about keeping Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal, even Leicester at bay. And I think that's where we are now. And I think that's the job is, it's ourselves and Chelsea who's going to come best out of that. I think there's too much to do at Spurs. And that's where we've got to be. I mean, those top two are just so far away, and we just got to keep them within touching distance, for now.
Yeah, I think good point. This is a good one to transition into the front three that your club has, and if it's going to happen, it may very well be this front three, right? So, Dave, I'm not sure if we've got the image of this front three, of course, at United that have absolutely ripped the league apart in the last, as we said, after COVID, AC. So we got, young Rashford, Greenwood, who's been exceptional, and then it looks like Martial's the number 9. Wow, shocked me. But talk to me about Marcus Rashford. Let's start there. Because we've seen what Aubameyang's done from left wing, left mid, right? Is that he's been exceptional. He's been exceptional from the left. But is that his natural position? Where would you like to see Rashford?
So I think it's almost like that position got changed from Henry already, is that what you thought a traditional centre forward is no longer that big number 9, Raul Jimenez, Batigol type player. So I think there's validity into play off that left and be a striker. Henry did it, Ronaldo's done it, got crazy numbers, Aubameyang does it. It is a decent place to start. Rashford he's got so much more to his game than just an old-fashioned number 9 that he shouldn't be there. So play off that left, come in on your right foot. He's got great feet. He commits people, goes the byline. I don't think he should try anything else, and he should be happy out there.
Yeah, because the production, the production is through the roof. How are you feeling about Martial as your number 9 up front?
The strangest thing about Martial is I honestly believe, you were talking about sports with no fans earlier. Martial, I don't think he would have played as well with fans. I think he would have completely crumbled. He seems to be a player that lets the ums and groans and everything from the crowd get to him. And without that, he's transformed. And it's like, hopefully it's built his confidence that he can carry on. And I just noticed that. I wondered how he would have done with a crowd on top of him the whole time, because there's not much patience for him. As a number 9, likewise, I don't think we have a number 9. I don't think anyone fits in there. Greenwood, they talk about it, but it's too early to say. If you have to improve, there's a number 9. I loved Ighalo coming in. I thought it's such a player who's so different to what we have. Will score an ugly goal with his ass. That's the sort of player you need. I don't think Martial is that either, but he has to develop, because if Rashford wants that, that wide left, he's going to get that, or that inside left, he's going to get it. So Martial had to adapt. But this is a good problem to have. You've got 2 players who can play so well together.
And then ultimately the youngster, the Wunderkind, is on fire, right? And we know how the media does it, especially the British media. Nobody does it better. What do you do about the Greenwood situation? Is he a surefire starter now? Like we in the Champions League, is going to play twice a week at 18?
No, so it's good to have that, because you also don't want to burn the kid out, and by the time he's 27, 28, can barely run anymore. So I think it's with a lot of games, you're going to have options. You're going to rotate him, let Martial go out there. You still got Daniel James going in there. So I think there's options. There's no need to put all the pressure on him. Thank God there are no internationals, because he'd be in the England side. He'd be number 1. He wouldn't score a hat trick and they'd write him off immediately. So it's also been good that there's been no international soccer. But it's a player like Greenwood that's a bonus. That shouldn't be your strategy. It's a bonus. He came through. It's a good option, but it's extra.
Yeah, look, so it transitions to this. Is you said Daniel James's name, and I think he started like everybody thought, okay, here's the next Ryan Giggs with the right foot. And then now, as you said, the Premier League figures you out. Pace is nice, but at the top level, you understand, you start to make the pitch smaller, and then you got to be tactically adept. So you can't always be offside. And he started going early, and a bit of burnout. The league figures you out. What do you do about him? Because as you alluded to earlier, Jadon Sancho, is he necessary, or is it too much cream and too much cream on top of the cake? Or do you bring Sancho in and he's the surefire starter? What do you do about Greenwood and time for Danny James? I'm really interested to hear your thoughts there.
Daniel James was never the next Ryan Giggs, nor is he as bad as everyone paints him out to be. He's a kid who came up from the Championship and he's figuring out the game. He was one day away from moving to Leeds at the time to, a few months later he's at Manchester United. So you also got to give the guy a chance. You're right, he has been figured out, and now it's for him to develop what happens next. Jadon Sancho, I think he's an amazing player. I don't know if it's what we need right now. Just looking at that money, there's better places to put. Like I say, it's a vanity signing that could sink Solskjaer. But tactically, we're very lopsided. Everyone pulls over to the left. Our whole team pulls over to the left, and it leaves the right with Wan-Bissaka to basically take over the whole thing. So I think Sancho gives you that good balance. And then, that's a potent Sancho, Martial, Rashford with Greenwood seems to be able to slot in anywhere. That's a really good option to have. A little bit young. I don't think there's any ugly strikers in there. I think everyone wants to win nicely. There's no Giroud that's going to stick his head, under people's feet to score. But, it's Solskjaer knows better than me about striking. So he obviously knows what he wants.
So I think you do have a little bit of a dilemma there. So earlier in the week, I went off on a bit of a rant saying, for me, Sancho is a non-starter. And I'll tell you why. It's not the ability. I'm not worried about that. We've seen that. I'm already dealing with a dressing room and a half in terms of what's happening now. And I don't know where the leaders are, I'm already dealing with Pogba stuff. And remember, I'm dealing with Mino Raiola. So I'm already dealing with that. Rashford's already shown that he's kind of into that as well. Martial, my God, we've seen what he is in terms of you never know what you're getting with that guy. And now you add another one. And because I saw Sancho getting fined for being late at Borussia Dortmund constantly. So that's not an ability issue. That's a character issue. I'm sorry. In Martial and Pogba, for me, I've already seen character traits that already go, oh my God. And like you said, we're not winning Premier Leagues and Champions League titles here. We've already got a character issue in the dressing room, whether you like Pogba or not. Like, let's take your emotions off the table, right? The lack of self-awareness is, I'm not saying don't be on social media, but when we're not winning, when there's clearly problems, when it's adding to our problem column, if you want to do it in an accounting sense for United, and not being a positive, is maybe just bring the social media down. Maybe start saying the right things in public and stop trying to fight. So you've already got clearly an immaturity and a lack of self-awareness, and then a character problem. Because Martial, we've had enough problems off the pitch. I mean, Rashford, okay, the latest stuff is great, but he's Mr. Tattoo and he loves a bit of the lifestyle. But Pogba's a problem for me in terms of, unless you get somebody to manage him and the dressing room, is now you're adding Jadon Sancho, who has been fined multiple times. And if you saw in the lockdown, the guy had to get a haircut in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know what that says about the character of a player. Am I overlooking it? But for me, I just know dressing rooms are built on character, not ability. And do you have any concern with Sancho in that sense?
I'm so glad you brought it up. And the haircut thing is like, I loved when everyone came back from playing and everyone just looked so manky. It's like all these groomed prima donnas just looked like they'd stepped out of Prison Break or something. Everyone looked like such crap. And Sancho, he couldn't do it. And so I'm glad you bring that up, because for me, I've got suspicions about Sancho. Along with all that, he has a player 20 years old, for whatever reason, for whatever motivation is, he's forced his way out of two big clubs. He wasn't going to play at City, but he didn't know. If you're good enough, you're going to get a chance. And he's forced his way out of Dortmund. I mean, Dortmund are a selling club. I take that argument, but he hasn't just let it happen. He forced his hand. And at 20, you're forcing your way out of clubs. I think Solskjaer has done a good job out of getting rid of a lot of like Lukaku, Sanchez, just guys with bad attitudes. And you need to tip it now, because Bruno's a good guy. The balance is very fragile now. The next guy tips it back the other way. And I just think Sancho, I can't help but escape the feeling that he's going to tip it the wrong way and he's going to take people with him. That's just my feeling. I think it was the same whether it be Jack Grealish. I felt Jack Grealish would do the same thing. It's just too young, too English, too much attitude without actually having ever achieved anything. And that's my big worry about Sancho, aside from the football.
I saw a picture today with Jack Grealish on the gram, and I love it. Go have a good time, brother. But I saw a picture of him on a boat, and there's beers and there's cigarettes and there's, and that image just tells me is you're not ready, Chief. There's a reason. Yeah, you're not ready. And I don't believe, what's he now, 23, 24? And Sancho has shown those kinds of things. I don't mind the personality. But when you want to go to Real Madrid, you want to go to Manchester United, this is, okay, that's over. And I think it's something that worries me about Paul Pogba is he never learned. Like, the you having fun is not the problem. Is when you're at United, is, Chief, here we're about £5 billion a year, turning that revenue over. It's not about you. And when you lack self-awareness, I can't do it. Because, the direct opposite is, if you look at Sergio Ramos, right? People always say the Pogba thing, and I'll be honest with you. Some people say, people don't like him. It becomes maybe sometimes it's a color thing, and people don't understand the African culture. That's just how he is. Let me tell you something. Sergio Ramos is the biggest personality, and you look at his wife, Pilar. That's a wife I'd want to put on every single Instagram post and everything we're doing, every bikini shot of Pilar, because that is what. Sergio Ramos is nuts. Go look at his social media. He's Sergio. He's the guy. He, for me, is the greatest defender of this generation. I call him the Maldini of our time. You go and look at his social media.
Top five defenders ever, easily.
But go and look at his social media. Real Madrid centric, right? Real Madrid centric. Is that self-awareness again? That's a real thing. And if people think it hasn't happened before, where too much talent has been in a dressing room, I offer you a team that has just come back to the English Premier League. Leeds United had 5 of the best in English football up front. Just up front. Fowler, Kuhl, Viduka. They had it all. What happened to O'Leary's side? So don't ever think you can have too much of a good thing. And it's not something I'm just making up. I've seen it. I've seen Leeds. I've seen that Leeds team on Football Manager. You're winning every title at a runaway. You're winning Champions League. You're winning the league. You can have too much talent because dressing rooms people are not built. They're not built on talent. No dressing room has ever been built on talent, right? You look at you argue with the United dynasties. They haven't been the most talented teams. What held it together? Roy Keane, Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister. That's what held it together. Dennis Irwin. That's what held it together. I look at this United team. I go, who's holding this together? Even that Leicester dynasty or the Leicester team that won. Some may say luck, but you look at that core and you look at that Maguire at his beginning. He's clearly some sort of a leader. You look at Robert Huth, came from a championship team, but not too much noise. You look at that spine, N'Golo Kante. These are guys we're going to get down to the grindstone, all character, and then a little bit of flash with Vardy up front. All flash, So I worry about United. Sorry, that's been something that's sitting with me. I really worry about the character of the dressing room because I've seen low character, high talent, and where that's taken you.
Like I say, and I think it's the third time I'm saying it. Van Gaal's vanity was Di Maria. Mourinho's vanity was Sanchez. I just can't help but feel that Sancho is Solskjaer's. I just feel that's going to be the thing that sinks him. Sancho may be Pochettino's problem, who knows? But I just can't help but feel that that's what sinks him.
I love how Ollie's eulogy's already been written. I love that Pochettino is basically he's already here. Oh man, I love it. Hey, Paulo, you've been awesome with your time, man. I just want to ask you, let's finish off on this sense. So we've spoken about this past season. What would you give it out of 10? So let's look at the last season and everything we've spoken about now. Man United, because I don't grade on a curve. So I view United, Fergie standard. So at 10 is Fergie, Gill, treble, three-peat twice, Keane, Vidic. That's the level. That's Man United in my eyes. I don't know anything else. Using that barometer, what would you say this season is out of 10?
What's Bournemouth level?
All right. So to use a bad pun, don't cherry pick.
Oh how?
We're having a good time now. It took some time, but we're rolling now. We're rolling. Out of 10, Paulo, what do you say about this past season?
If Fergie's the 10, I would say we are promoted young players, playing good football, got a bit of a talisman again. I'd say back in the Champions League. I'd say I'm going to sit on the fence and say 5. Easy way out.
Okay. All right. Well, that is sitting on the fence. Hold on. A new talisman. Who's the new talisman? Is that a bit of Portuguese bias there?
Yeah, from me, never. I did say it's measured by BB and AB.
Before Bruno and after Bruno. All right, let's talk about the after Bruno part before we take some questions. Paulo, can you hang around for some questions? You've been awesome, bro. This has been incredible, actually. Some of your insight.
No worries.
All right, so before we get to that, give me 3 signings, right? So you have an open checkbook, hypothetically. Not hypothetically, you're Man United. You really have an open checkbook, right? You are Ed Woodward. Give me 3 dream signings. Forget that Madrid and PSG and all these teams are in the market. Wishes were horses. Paulo Diaz, here we go. Give me 3 signings that take United to the next level and City aren't a nightmare anymore.
Whenever I play fantasy football games, I never sign the Mbappes in that. I always go look for the next. Like I said earlier, is if you had to give me the spine that Wolves have, Bolly, Ruben Neves, and Jimenez, for me, that takes us a level up. They're not world beaters yet, but that's the players we always used to sign, players who have another level. And you give me a spine like that, and I think it solves a lot of our problems, strangely enough.
I couldn't. Hey, there we go, folks. What do you think? Paulo says, give me Ruben Neves.
Nice.
Yeah, Bolly and the flying Mexican. Probably going to be, I think he might end up being Mexico's best of all time. Because I think Blanco was the previous one, but I think this guy's the real deal. Big Raul up front. So a strong spine, every team got to build a spine. So well said there, Paulo. Matt, you have been awesome. Such a great review. I did not expect you as a United fan to bring the heat, but you brought the heat today, Paulo. We're going to have you back.
Even after my David Moyes statement, I still have credibility.
Well, look, we'll run it through our accreditation team after this, but we'll see what we can do. Even after the Moyes, what they're calling already, Sky Sports is calling it Moyes Madness. It's already there. I can see it. I can see the headline right itself. Paulo, you've been amazing.
Too much ESPN.
I love ESPN. I love you. Mike Greenberg, my favorite, absolute favorite. Can you take some questions before we let you go, before your wife divorces you?
No, with pleasure. I've only got Costa highlights to watch, but that's pretty much my evening.
That's absolutely brilliant. So Zico Dueza says, Paulo, can you give us your opinion on tied third, which is my expression for the end of the championship? Tied third.
Yeah, listen, it's not something. I mean, it's a bit of an embarrassing thing. It's like I would rather have been fourth, clearly, to be honest. Like we stumbled over the line. A tied third is not a good look. It's like really not much of an anything. I suppose it's like more a lesson to Lampard to friggin' learn how to defend more than our problem. But listen, it's top 4. That's pretty much it.
That's all that matters. All right, he's not really jarred by that question from whoever said that. And Dave, what we got next for Paulo? Jesse Randolph says, who's worse, Mike Ashley, Kroenke, or the Glazers? Oh, good one there, Jesse.
Where are the teams sitting? Mike Ashley. I mean, he's in it for one reason. He's drags the club down. He's willing to do deals with anybody. Kroenke and the Glazers, they obviously top clubs with good attendances. They put money on players, despite what people may think is not the players you want. But Mike Ashley is just taking Newcastle for an absolute ride.
Yeah, no, that's what the British might call a piss take.
You ever hear the story about him vomiting into a fireplace at some fancy restaurant? He's not the best.
What? Whoa, no. You're going to have to tell me that story. I've never heard that one. I remember him chugging beers with the fans, but I haven't heard that story.
So it was during that whole charm offensive when he was like, no, I'm a Cockney, but I'm up here with Hawaii, the lads and that. And it was some fancy restaurant and just turns around in the middle of dinner and just vomits into a fireplace in this fancy Michelin restaurant after drinking too many beers. He's just not great. Puts his staff on furlough. Oh, he's a mess. He's an absolute mess.
Yeah. And the guys were reportedly worth, 2.6? Well, JD Sports is worth 2.6 billion pounds. They are not a good look. Yeah. Not a good look. Sometimes
others put their money into their team. It's like it or not, they do. They invest in their side.
Okay, Jesse, it's wow. It's Mike Ashley is the answer there. The rig says, Paulo, who's your football team of the 80s? Any league?
I loved AC Milan. I loved that sort of late 80s, early 90s AC Milan. That for me was the first time I became conscious of soccer, more than just, when I became interested. And that AC Milan side of Gullit, Van Basten, Rijkaard, Baresi, Maldini. Oh, Papano was there for a stage. Oh, that was Lentini. Even when Lentini came for 13 million world record. I love that AC Milan.
You left out the Brow. What about the Brow? Great defender and now Everton manager. You can't leave him out. He was a part of that team.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
100%.
Carlo Ancelotti, part of that core. Costa Curta is part of that team. It's a brilliant team. And then, of course, the great thing about that dynasty, first African footballer, of course, to win World Player of the Year, George Weah is a part of that. Those who are interested in that, those that are interested in that dynasty is the man who essentially has given the Italian, he really took the Italian way of play to the world, Arrigo Sacchi, right? And, just an incredible dynasty, just incredible. So AC Milan, huh?
And if you think AC Milan, yes, they had always won things, but they weren't this glamour club. I think AC Milan, it's sort of like if AC Milan now had to pick up and start winning everything again. That's sort of what it would be like then. They're not this legacy decades after decades after decades. They have good periods. So I think imagine AC Milan in 3 years' time, all the stars dominating everything. It'd be very similar. And that's what they were in the late 80s, early 90s.
Well, I'm rather sickened by that because I'm actually an Inter Milan fan and have been for a long time. My favorite footballer of all time, El Trattore, Javi Zanetti, is the guy. Yeah. So let's take a couple more questions, and then some of them may be for me, some of them may be for you. It doesn't matter. I'll take them with you. Dave, let's take a couple more questions, and we'll let Paulo go. The Rig says, "Is cricket still fun when England are winning everything?" Good question. As you know, I don't take one-day cricket seriously, so it doesn't really matter to me that they won the World Cup. Let's see what it's like, because the great test of greatness. Australia won the World Cup 3 times in a row, people. So let's not overreact and be shooketh by Sky Sports. They've won 1 World Cup and done nothing else. They haven't gone to India and won. The great Australia team did that. Warne, McGrath, Gillespie, Martin, Ponting, they did that. So, yes, I know it feels like that right now because we're starved, but England have won a World Cup, and what else have they done? Can you win 3 World Cups in a row? That's real. So, no, I'm still fine with cricket because I think England are, and especially we're starting to see it now, is Cook's gone, Strauss is gone, Root, we're about to see whether you're Ponting, Clark, or Alan Border. Now it's going to get real. You're going to have to captain your side. So not really. Whatever. I'm not obsessed with Sky Sports. Dave, what you got for me? The Rig. Many countries are going back into full lockdown, minus cig and alcohol ban. Don't you think SA have been wise to wait on rugby? Now, Paulo, I'm not sure if you're a rugby guy, but what do you think of some countries? Like, I'm not sure if you're keeping an eye on the America situation in the college football. I know you're a busy man, but they're obviously having that contentious situation of, if we can't our students back, why can the athletes come back? And now in South Africa, do you have an opinion on sort of, are we right to hold back with the rugby players in SA? With COVID being real?
I think you just have to look at the sports that have done it en masse. And, when you're talking earlier about sports bringing back, I don't know if you've seen any NHL, how they do it without any fans. It's quite weird. Not NHL. NHL hockey. NFL. Yeah, ice hockey. Yeah,
NHL
ice hockey.
Two bubble cities. I have a friend who plays in the NHL, actually. 2 bubble cities.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. So listen, I think in terms of when our players ready, every sports body is going to make their mind. But I think you just look at the big sports that have gone back. They've been relatively COVID infection free. So in terms of player safety, big sports are doing it and big leagues are doing it, and they've gone away with it. And it does become, do teams want to do it without fans? Some sports, do your fans really make a difference? But I think sport's good enough. There's not been major outbreaks in the leagues that have done it. So, it's the ball is rolling and everyone should do it now. We've got to get back to normal eventually, right?
Absolutely. It's this confusion that people don't like the fact that we should treat sportsmen and sports differently from us. Hey, they've hit a genetic lottery and they've put in their 10,000 hours, which is not a law I love. But hey, get over yourself. Treat them separately because they serve a different role, much like theater, and you got to keep making movies. People need the fourth wall in life. For me, they've got lots more money. There are billionaires that are creating an industry. Let that roll on. And be aggressive. The one thing that I despise, and I love living in South Africa, the one thing I despise about living in South Africa and the South African mentality is like there's prizes for humility. I can't stand that in South Africans. I cannot stand that about us. And what I love about America, so you can love them or hate them. The British, love them or hate them, is we're going to do it and it's us and we'll take your feedback later. We'll take your feedback later. We're going to do it. We're going to be the best and we're not going to apologize. We're going to try stuff. So much so that arguably the greatest South African mind of this time had to move over there to send rockets over, like, because he was sick of it. You can't have Elon Musk here going, please, thank you, sir, please may I have some more. No, you go and you be aggressive. Dana White, Vince McMahon, the SEC. So the SEC are going, well, I don't know if you saw, but Harvard and the Ivy League schools have gone, all sports cancelled. So we don't care. You guys are producing brain surgeons. SEC says this is a $4 billion industry. We're carrying on. We'll play in conference. Go screw yourself. Be aggressive. In life, be aggressive. It always wins. It always wins. Aggressive. There's nowhere where aggressive loses. Be aggressive in business. And whether people like it or not, the students that play American football and rugby players, you're a business. I know it takes, yeah, go ahead.
And guess what? Yeah, no, sorry. And guess what, dude? If you don't want to play, there's thousands of guys who are willing to take the risk over you. You know, that's it.
There we go. So that's my opinion. Rugby, get back to it. You've taken too long. I had a rant about the IRB a little bit earlier. Dave, what we got next? Chris Teneth. I hope I'm saying that correctly, or Teneth. Why do you think you haven't been made world sports president and CEO yet, Paulo? There we go. That's to you, I presume. I can only presume.
Oh, really? I asked the same question of you. It's just a matter of time. You're obviously too busy.
That's it. My diary's just it's chock-a-block at the moment. It's chock-a-block. Paul, I got another one for you from Jesse Randolph. He says, do you think Greenwood is better than Saka and Martinelli? England is going to have a great team in a couple of years. So that's probably two questions, really. Is Greenwood better than Saka and Martinelli?
You know, you just gotta on this knowing stats. You know, Greenwood scored more. Does that make him better? I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot more excitement around him. You know, young players are interesting. Do they develop? You know, for every Wayne Rooney, there's a what's that other young guy, Francis Jeffers. You know, so you know, Francis Jeffers also looked good when he was young and didn't go the same way. So, if I take right now, who scored more goals? Greenwood, yes. Does that play out in 5 years' time? Can't say, but you know, right now it's Greenwood.
Sure. I tell you what I like about Martinelli. He's got that edge. You hate to kind of always say it's the South American thing, because obviously the logical conclusion is that leads you somewhere else. But he's got a bit of that, something, you know, for a young guy. Usually the young guys, that they develop that. But for him, he's in people's... I remember watching the Chelsea game. He's in Aspilicueta's face, like, not today, mate. I love that about... Of all of the ones mentioned there, listen, the talent's nuts. But Martinelli is... He's a savage. Absolute savage.
Let's just hope he makes it in...
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Let's hope he...
Oh, no, Martinelli, just hope he like follows through with it and doesn't end up playing for like Racing Santander in like 2 years' time when Arsenal can't find a place for him. Like it's happened so many times with young South Americans there.
It's such a pity, yeah. It's such a pity. Paulo, you are electrifying, bro. We nearly went to Joe Rogan territory here. Thank you so much for giving up your time, and your insight is awesome, dude. You're really to anybody watching. I've always told this man he should have his own show somewhere daily. He's one of the best. He's one of the best broadcasters in this country, and I feel nothing in saying that. And it's not just because you're on the show. You know, I said that to you to your face via text. I don't know if I need to send you nudes saying that. I don't know what more needs to be done in what. But Paulo, you're the best. It has been awesome to have you on, brother. I will have you back on any time when you're available.
Oh, dude, you and my mom are the kindest people to me. Did I say you and your mom? You and my mom are the kindest people to me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Listen, I love the show, dude. I've supported you from day one. Thank you for inviting me on to talk some nonsense. I hope the moist thing doesn't stick with me.
Well, too late now. The internet lives forever. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, Mr. Paulo Dias, I would imagine you say it something like that. Paulo, I'm not taking any correction because this is the outro. This is the outro of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an awesome guest. So we're going to be doing that with a few more. Everton, expect one of your fans to come on. Liverpool will wrap up your season. Arsenal, Chelsea. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been awesome. You could have been anywhere tonight. You chose to be with us, with me and Paulo Dias. For tonight, it has been a different ballgame.